Today, these plants received their eviction notice and they are going into the great outdoors once and for all. If you've been around for a while, you might recall seeing these plants inside my home. They were part of my indoor food garden. There are 2 containers. There's mostly tomatoes, a few cucumber plants, a few basil, and a few marigolds that were all grown from seed inside the house during the late winter, early spring months, and they are just getting too big for the house. So the time has come for these guys to live in the vegetable garden. Today it is April 2nd, and technically that is a little early to be planting tomatoes outside in the Pacific Northwest. Normally we wait until the middle of May, sometimes even late May, early June. But the eviction notice has been issued and we must follow through. However, we're not messing around with the safety of these plants. We do have a greenhouse kit for them from the local Dollarama. I used these in my last season and they worked out really well with my tomatoes. I also used them for watermelon, and they're a really good kit if you're in Canada. They are $4 at your local Dollarama, although I did buy this last year, so the price might have gone up. This is what my hole looks like. I think that is definitely deep enough. Phosphate promotes fruiting and flowering in many plants, as does bone meal. I like to really go after getting lots of flowers. More bone meal. Don't need it from every container, just a little bit. Granular kelp is an awesome source of micronutrients for plants. And by the way, I am not sponsored by any fertilizer companies. I have been using fertilizer long before I made YouTube videos. And I truly think fertilizer, I love organic. Some people use inorganic, is worth the money, in my opinion, for what it gives you, for the health of your plants, for the yields of crops, for the production value. I think it is worth it. Everyone's gonna have their own opinion, and that is totally fair. So here is my planting hole. There's still organic matter that has not broken down, but I'm not too worried about it. I'm just gonna mix it in with my plants. Going to add bone meal, a little bit, and kelp meal to the planting hole with a little bit of rock phosphate. Technically this is water soluble, so I could mix it in a watering can, but I'm just gonna sprinkle in a little bit of that. Have a little fun with a new hose nozzle that I just got. Haven't really done much experiment yet with my watering hose. I always really enjoy getting a new hose nozzle because I love watering and I love to play with water. So this kind of is good fun for me, playing around with all the hose settings. Some people might not find that fun or interesting or entertaining, but I love playing with water. Next, we start giving these guys a real eviction notice. We're going to take a random tomato plant, pull it out, and see how this goes. Shit! Oh my god! Oh my god! We're not off to a good start. I don't think in all my years of gardening I've ever butchered a tomato plant like that. That's kind of embarrassing, actually. But I'm going to plant it the way it is. I think this will grow. This may or may not die. I've heard you can propagate, but this is not the normal propagation method. Into the planting hole we go. A rootless, good sized tomato plant. Gonna stick it right in, just like that. And right beside it, I'm gonna plant the one with the roots. This might be a bad idea, but honestly, I don't think that one's gonna make it. So This is going to be an experiment. I love experiments, but this was not one that I planned on actually doing today. And let's take off some of these lower leaves to give these guys a little bit more of a chance. We want to fill up those roots as much as possible. Lots of worms in these unbroken down leaves. We're just going to fill up these holes with some soil. Thinking this one might actually be better closer to the top because it's so small. This is what we're working with. A lot of leaves with a little bit of soil mixed in, and who knows what else. I'm going to take off this leaf too. Might be a bad idea, but at this point we don't have a lot to lose. It would be crazy if this plant ended up doing the best out of all of my tomato plants. I would be shocked. And right here, this was the little bit of rooted material that was left. We're just going to stick that right in like that and call it a day. Cross our fingers, pray for these poor little plants. We're going to take a little closer look at the technique I've been using to plant these, something slightly different than I've done in the past. And let me know your thoughts on this technique in the comments. Am I digging myself into a hole and these tomatoes are going to die? Do you guys think this is a good technique? Time will tell what the results will be, but let me know what you think. Maybe you've tried it yourself. I'm going to be showing you my technique doing it one-handed, so it's going to be quite a bit more tricky than all the plants I just did with two hands. I tried to maneuver the tripod, but I literally cannot get this to work. So hopefully the video images are okay. Hopefully I can do this one-handed and you can get a good look at this technique I'm using. So here's my tomato plant. I've got it in the hole and we're going to start filling the hole. I've already put the fertilizer and the water in that I showed earlier in the video. And my next step is actually sea soil. I've been sort of doing this layering technique with sea soil versus the natural soil. And let's see how this is going to go. So I do a layer of sea soil. And then I take a layer of my natural materials, natural soils, composts. Probably a bit more of a thicker layer of my natural stuff. And then I go back to the sea soil. Nice thin layer. Put some more native soil in there. The really big pieces of organic matter I do take out, but most of it is fine to stay in there. And I just keep on layering here. And I'm going to take this leaf off. I want to go up the stem as far as possible. And as I'm doing this, I don't know if you can tell, but the plant is actually standing more and more upright. I'm almost creating a mound with my soil. For better or worse, I don't know if this is going to be good for watering or not good, but I haven't actually done this technique before. So If you've done this, let me know. I mean, I am going to fill in a little bit around the sides, but basically it's kind of a tomato planting rounding technique, or what would you call that? I feel like it's a mounding technique, similar to planting potatoes. Well, let me know what you think of this. I'm not quite finished. We are going to top with something at the end. Just get it a little bit higher. I think that's pretty good. Maybe a smidge more. Yes, I think I like that. And then we just take some of these dry leaves and put them kind of around the tomato, both for protection and hopefully as a water retaining mulch. And they are still going to get protection in the greenhouse. So that is my technique. Let me know your thoughts down below. So here are my tomatoes. There are 5 of them that I just planted for my Dollarama greenhouse. And this is the one that I originally tore the root that I first showed you. So there's the 2 pieces. The first piece, the big piece of plant with no root, is wilting, but I'm going to leave it in. Maybe it'll grow new roots. Fingers crossed. And that's the rest of them. So we have still some plants in the pots, and there's a whole other pot. Just for fun, we're going to plant a few tomatoes in my grow bags. I want to utilize my garden space as well as possible this season, so this will add extra space if we grow some things in bags and some in the garden. And this is a hodgepodge mess of plants in here. We're going to try not to damage anything, but kind of a challenge, this little pot. These roots are honestly kind of sad. They were really shallow rooted, but we can fix that in these grow bags. So I'm all done. The tomatoes I'm going to plant out in the garden today for April the 2nd. Let me show you how the tomatoes are looking. Here are the tomatoes in my grow bags. I have 6 planted in grow bags, and they're looking okay. Some of them have little marigold companions, and a couple of them have little tiny basil companions. And it's been probably about 40 minutes to an hour since I planted these. I didn't want to put the greenhouse on them yet because it's still pretty warm out right now, probably 15, 16 degrees Celsius. And some of them are looking fine, but some of them, oh dear, they have definitely started to wilt. They're either dead, dying, in shock, or one or more of the above. So we will see how this plays out. I'm not going to give up on them this soon. I actually am going to get the greenhouse set up. I'll show you what that's like, and then we're going to cross our fingers and pray for our little plants. All done setting up my Dollarama greenhouse kit over my tomatoes. Let's take a look. Here's my greenhouse kit all set up. I'm still not overly optimistic that a lot of these plants will survive, but fingers crossed. If any survive, it is a bonus. I do have duplicates of everything started in milk jugs, so I'm not going to consider this a huge loss. If they don't survive, it's all good. Here are my DIY greenhouses for the 2024 growing season using container grown tomatoes, tomato cages, very cheap garbage bags, threw in a spaghetti strainer. We've got some sticks in here and a broken pot. Be very creative with your DIY greenhouses. You can do all kinds of stuff. Let me know in the comments which one do you think is going to work the best. Thank you for joining me on my little tomato planting journey. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, and we will see you soon with another video. Happy gardening!